Hey guys, welcome to another video. So today I'm going to be doing mid Taliyah, and this is a champion that I recommend for climbing. I think it's a really good climbing champion, so let's dive straight into it. First of all, we're going to cover the runes. Pretty standard rune page, guys. We're going to go Electrocute, Taste of Blood, Zombie Ward, because that's my personal favorite, especially when you're playing Taliyah, because you're going to be moving a lot around the map. And then you're going to finish that off with Ravenous Hydra. Relentless Hunter is also something you can experiment with, but I've just found that Ravenous Hydra works a little bit better for me. I'm going to go through the build actually throughout this video, so make sure you keep watching to kind of see what I build. And then next, what I'm going to do is quickly talk about some of her matchups. So what I'm going to do is kind of go through decent matchups, the average matchups, and the bad matchups. So let's start first with the decent matchups. So I think decent matchups for Taliyah are the ones that give her a lot of space in lane to be able to move and control the wave. So these are matchups such as like Akali. I actually think Kassadin, this is going to be quite controversial, but I actually think Kassadin's a good matchup for Taliyah, purely because I think it's super snowbally for Taliyah, that you can pressure her Kassadin really hard early game, which can actually translate to you impacting the whole map. I think Orianna's a decent matchup for Taliyah. I think Talon's a good matchup for Taliyah. I think Zoe and Vlad are both pretty decent as well. And in my experience, these sorts of matchups for Taliyah allow you to push the wave, move and impact the map, which is really what you want to be doing on Taliyah. And you'll kind of see, and the way this video is going to go, guys, and I'm actually going to show you a few differing examples. I'm going to show you not just one laning phase, I'm going to show you 3 differing laning phases so you can actually see what I mean, and I'm not just talking bullshit here, guys, so it'll make a lot more sense. Average matchups are the ones that can either go, they're either way, depending on the jungle matchup and depending on the skill of the players and the elo of the players. So these are matchups such as Yasuo, Aurelia, Fizz, Azir, Cassio, and the reason I call them average is some games you play them and you hit your skill shots quite well. They either play it poorly or you have a decent jungler who's able to capitalize on a favorable wave position. I just find that these matchups are quite 50-50, can be played, they're quite skill reliant. And then you got the bad matchups, and these ones are bad because either A, they have so much threat on you that it's like pretty much impossible to play your champion, or they can build waves against you early and kind of just completely shut you down. So these are champions such as Diana, Syndra, Karma mid, Lucian mid, Nocturne, and Kiana. So these either fill the shoes, like I said, of something that can continually push you in, pin you under tower, and make it really hard for you to play the game, or they just have so much threat on you that you can never push out and you can never get their roams off. So that's kind of like, and if I haven't mentioned a champion, I've just kind of done the core ones, then they're most likely, leave it below actually in the comments if you have what you think. Like if you want my opinion on how you would play that matchup, just leave it below in the comments. Otherwise, we'll get straight into the gameplay. First of all, guys, we're going to start with a VOD of Taliyah versus Yasuo. Alright, let's jump straight into it. So, like saying before, we're playing Taliyah versus Yasuo. So guys, whenever you're playing Taliyah versus any matchup where you feel like you're going to get hard shoved in level 2, 3, like 1, 2, 3, even 4, what I highly recommend, like I said before in the runes, you're going to be most likely taking Zombie Ward, is actually using your level 1 ward here, in this location here. So the reason is when you take Zombie Ward, obviously after this expires, it's going to drop a ward there after it dies. And what this is going to do is going to give your team, your jungler specifically, a lot of information about, where the enemy jungler is. Can that person, or can your jungler then use this information to set up ganks on your lane because they're going to be pushing into you a lot. It's just something that a really good habit to get into, because you're not going to be using your ward for the first few minutes regardless, because you're just going to be shoved in. And this is very common in matchups when you're versing Yasuo, because Yasuo ends up just shoving you in the whole early laning phase. And there's been so many times where I'm just like, I'm like 4 or 5 minutes in and I'm like, I could have just used my ward level 1. So I have no idea why, I'm just sitting with a ward here and I should have just used a level 1. So I've kind of learned from my mistake, guys, and make sure you guys use your ward level 1 if you think you're not going to be able to use it in the first few minutes because you're versing either a pretty hard matchup or like a counter or something like that. So you'll see, guys, why I view this as a skill matchup in a moment. So this is a matchup that can go either way, and something that's really important, guys, before we get straight into this matchup is highly swayed by the jungle matchup. In this game, I actually have a Nidalee. And Nidalee Taliyah has like no synergy. We have no CC, all our abilities get blocked by Yasuo's win wall. There's pretty much no gank threat onto Yasuo. But on the other hand, say I were to have, say, a Lee Sin or a Jarvan or, you know, like a lot of other junglers that aren't skill shot reliant, that just want to jump in onto the Yasuo, it completely changes the way Yasuo has to play. And you actually see this as the game kind of plays out. It will actually completely change and create, if you have like a Lee Sin or a Jarvan, you're going to have a lot more opportunities to roam and move, because Yasuo is going to have to respect the jungler and give you a lot of space. It will make a lot more sense as this video goes on here, guys. So, level 1, guys, something that I really recommend when you're in any range versus melee matchup is make sure you utilize your auto attacks. Here you notice how first thing I did was try and proc his shield. And the first objective, guys, in any of these lanes when you're versing a melee champion is ideally what you want to be doing is keeping the wave in this location here. And what that is going to do is going to give you two things are going to happen. It's going to either allow him to be quite vulnerable to getting ganked, because obviously melee matchups, I mean these matchups, he's going to be very vulnerable to getting ganked. And then also with Taliyah, what you can do is you can, once the minions actually kind of stand still and stay still, you can walk past the minions and actually Q him, chase him down the lane like you would as like a Rise or you know, any other melee matchup. You can just chase them down, but as Taliyah, you can actually chase them down with Q, and I'll show you what I mean. Actually, I do it in this game. So what I'm trying to do is thin the wave a little bit so it doesn't build up too big, so I can keep the wave outside my tower. So as he pushes me in here, I'm just thinning as much as I can. I don't want to allow him to build up too much of a wave. And I'm making sure to auto attack as much as I can. So what I actually see here, and guys, you can do this in any of your games, if the person moves out of the lane to ward, and actually you see the minions settling like this is actually a go sign for you to walk up and actually start pressuring them off with Q. Look at this. Then I walk up, I'm like, wait, he's giving me too much space. And if they give you too much space, this is exactly what you can do if the wave's in your position, like I said before. You can just chase him down, make sure you proc your use your corrupting pot during the trade so you kind of get that extra damage and stay healthy. But yeah, that's a really solid trade. Now, he started Doran's Blade. I have still 2 corrupting pots and a biscuit. So in terms of sustain, I'm completely fine here. And the wave's in a really awkward spot for him, so I'm constantly auto-attacking whenever I can. I'm getting as much damage on as I can. Something I recommend, guys, something you can probably even do better than me this game, is try and position to the sides. Because what that's actually going to do, say you want Yasuo to lean onto the bot side where your jungler's going to be. A really interesting thing you can do is actually start leaning onto the top side here. And this is actually going to force Yasuo to lean onto the other side, because he doesn't want to get hit by your abilities. He wants to lean onto the other side of the minions so the minions block your Q. So as Taliyah, what I should be doing soon is actually positioning on the top side of the lane, trying to force Yasuo onto the bot side of the lane, which is going to open him up to getting ganked by my jungler, because my jungler is pathing down. That's just a quick little tip, guys. And now notice, you know, he's a melee champion. It's in this really awkward spot for him. He can't chase me down the lane. And, you know, there's a lot of threat on him. And now I can just actually walk up, E here. And the reason you walk up in E is now, if he decides to E on me, he's going to dash through these little rocks here, which is going to do a lot of damage. If he dashes to the side here to escape, he's also going to take a lot of damage. So utilizing your E versus any dash reliant champions is super, super OP. So here I throw down my E, he dashes through them, he takes too much damage, I just walk up and then ignite him. I didn't want to flash. And now what do you do when you kill someone is you just try and shove out as fast as you can so you can deny as much minions from them and reset the wave and go back and buy your next items. And in terms of shoving, what you want to be doing is using your E throughout the whole wave like this, and then flicking the melee, the range creeps back into them, because they pretty much get one shot, and while your minions pummel the melees, and then you're able to kind of clear the wave super fast and then reset. So in terms of itemization, guys, since Taliyah is so skill shot reliant, and I say this a lot in my videos, is I love getting tier 1 boots. It allows you to position a lot easier. It allows you to land skill shots easier. It allows you to tether in melee matchups a lot easier. It's just a great little item you can do. I don't see many people actually utilize that, so that's something you can do into your own games. And then also, obviously, Dark Seal, because I'm running Corrupting Pot. And since you're an early reliant champion, going Dark Seal just is always really good. And it's a really good snowballing item as well. So, again, guys, remember what I said at the start. if I had any other champion right now and I keep the wave here, Yasuo is going to be in such a shitty position. Sorry, excuse my language, a very poor position. So Nilly's just going to be able to walk up, you know, kill this Yasuo. It's going to be super, super easy. So what do I do here? I actually try and pull the wave into the into the bush here, so it kind of, notice how I pulled it, and so it's keeping the minions in this position. I really want to keep the minions in this position as much as I can. And then Nidalee ended up deciding to path bot and gank bot, which is fine. But because this is an average to, you know, quite a rough matchup for me, and it's very jungle reliant, I'm not able to shove out Yasuo on my own. So I just kind of have to sit tight. And guys, this is something I really recommend. Sit tight in these matchups. Don't try and force too much, because 1v1, it is quite hard, especially when your jungler's not playing around you. Wait for your jungler to come, and I'll show it in this video. I play very patient. My jungler comes, and then I roam with the room he gives me. So then I'm trying to use my E, so if he dashes through it, proccing my electrocute, auto-attacking because he has no minions to dash through. I'm able to hit the W, and then I get a nice little chunk off here. Let's actually go back here. I want to explain one thing. So when you're playing any, like Taliyah is one of those champions. He's probably one of the most, like, it's like a dice roll champion. You'll see in so many games when you play Taliyah, it's like this. You have 100, you know, 100% HP, 100% HP. All it takes is one W into, like, flick into an E, into like an auto attack and a Q, and you chunk them completely. So that's also the benefit of having the wave in this position. If they walk up to go for this CS, it's going to give you opportunities to walk up here. Notice how I'm like sitting on the side to help me kind of thin these minions a lot easier, rather than coming straight from the front, because he can just win wall it. If you land one flick, the lane's completely different. And a lot of the time, guys, when you're playing Taliyah, if you land one flick on them, that's going to give you the room to get the wave and then roam to a side. But if you don't land any flicks, you're versing a good player. This is why I say it's a very skill shot reliant matchup, or skill reliant. If I don't hit any flicks, then I'm going to be stuck in lane for a long time. I have to wait for my jungler, and then I'm not going to be able to get many roams off. So here he doesn't have any minions to kind of go on to, so yeah, I'm able to get the flick, and then I get a decent trade-off. So you can kind of see how a lot of these matchups can go either one or two ways, and you'll see it play differently in a lot of varying elos. So there I'm able to kind of put the E down. He takes a bit of damage, and that's kind of deters him from going on me. He tries to go on me, but he's taking a bit too much damage here. And notice how I can't really go on him. I would have chased him down the lane if I had information about Lee Sin's location, but I had no idea where Lee Sin was on the map, so I couldn't actually chase him down the lane, unfortunately. And that's something you really need to take into account when you're playing Taliyah, because you have no, you know, you don't really have much mobility apart from like your movement speed near walls. You can't like dodge things very well because you're just a mobile mage, so something you need to take into account as well. You're quite a vulnerable champion. So what I'm going to do, this is like the very first portion of the game. So for the next 4.5 minutes, I'm actually end up just catching waves under tower because my jungler decides not to come mid, purely because obviously, yes, we have no threat on Yasuo, and he just decides to play the side lane. So what I'm actually going to do is skip this forward a little bit, because it's quite self-explanatory the next 4.5 minutes, and get to a point where my jungler ends up coming to my lane, so I can show you what actually happens when the jungler comes to relieve pressure. So again, I'm trying to keep the wave in this position as much as I can, because I'm not able to shove him out on my own, like I've reiterated a few times. So eventually my jungler comes, so I try to get the flick on as the jungler's coming here, set up a gank, and he flashes out, we blow his flash. So what I was thinking here is, okay, while my jungler's here, either one or two things is going to happen. Yasuo is just going to base, in which I can just roam right now because the next wave coming is actually a cannon wave. Or what I can do is get my jungler to catch the next wave and me roam, because I roam a lot better than Nidalee at the moment. So what I actually do here is I start roaming thinking that Yasuo was actually basing, because I saw bot overextended. Notice how I'm constantly panning my camera onto sides, trying to absorb as much information as I can. And then I see Yasuo actually show back mid. So I actually ping my jungler to catch mid wave, and then I roam. And what I try to do is hug the walls as much as I can. And I see them overextended. I throw my wall up here. And guys, super important. When you use your wall, you really don't want to be going into melee range. If I were to go and then jump off in any of this location over here, I'm going to be in trouble, because it's going to be difficult for me to aim my Q since I'm so close. And then also, there's minions coming here, which means that it's very difficult for me to hit Q through the minions. So ideally what I want to be doing is throwing the wall down, getting off around here and then positioning around to help me get a better angle on them and kind of usher them into a corner. So I get off here, throw the wall down. I end up missing the flick, but I end up queuing him. And then trapping this guy, and then getting a nice little double kill for my bot lane, which is really, really nice. And my jungler's just catching mid wave. So this is just this is the bread and butter gameplay of Taliyah, and really what you want to be looking to do. Taliyah is one of those champions where you're either hard doing one or two things. You're either hard camping mid because you have a jungler with hard CC or can abuse one of these melee matchups, or you want to be pushing and moving or using your jungler's threat on mid to move. One or the other. And generally, as Taliyah, what I prefer and what you'll end up, playing this champion, what you'll realize is that pushing and moving just plays to her strength so much, because obviously the movement speed on your passive when you're near walls, and then also utilizing your ultimate is, for side lane kills is super, like, it's a really, really good ability. So now you'll see me for the next, 5 or so minutes, constantly push if I can, if he gives me, the room to push. He was too low there, so he had to give me the push on the wave. I would have gone bot. I would have actually initially gone bot here, but I saw that Nidalee was pinging, knowing that he would stay. I don't know how he did it. And then also my bot lane was basing, so I couldn't roam bot anyway. So we ended up deciding to try and dive this Yasuo. It's pretty self-explanatory. He has no flash, so it's a bit of a free kill here. And then while I'm here, I'm able to get another nice little plate. It's good for me. Let's fast forward a little bit. I get the next wave, again, by constantly throwing my E through it and then flicking the back 3 creeps and then positioning to the side to use my Q through them. And again, what am I doing? Pushing and moving, guys. And again, notice how on the way through, I'm hugging the wall here and here to try and get as much movement speed as I can. Constantly panning my camera bot to see what they're doing. And I'm using my move speed, kind of catching them off guard. And again, this is going to be something you guys can easily replicate in your solo queue games as long as you're patient and don't force too many stupid things 1v1, because Taliyah isn't the best 1v1 champion. Really relies on the jungler and really relies on playing around waves, as you've kind of noticed in this VOD so far. Only in the matchups that I mentioned before, in the decent matchups where you're very self-sufficient and you can control the wave on your own, you can kind of do things on your own. Otherwise, in the average to bad matchups, you really need to play around the jungle matchup and play around solid bases. Notice here, guys, when you're versing any dash-reliant champion, you want to use your E here when they go up to look to EU, because they're going to just take a lot of damage when they dash. Like that, perfect. He nearly gets half HP purely just through dashing through my rocks, which is pretty awesome. And pretty self-explanatory at the moment. Not much I can do 1v1, but again, now notice how as soon as my junglers actually started to play around mid, it's opened me up so much more to go for roams, which is, now I'm 6-0. I've got 4 kills in the last few minutes, purely from like me being freed up to roam. Since Taliyah's, as you can see, Taliyah's rooms are so good. Again, I've got the wave in, and what am I doing? I'm not going for plates mid, I'm always moving. And it's one of those things where, even if you don't have ultimate, because your movement speed is so fast, you can just constantly look for things. I'm trying to cut him off with my Q here. He ends up using his stopwatch, but then he just dies. I don't even know if they needed me to get these kills, but I end up choosing to roam regardless. Because a lot of the time, guys, what I actually recommend if you've watched my videos before is you roam and you get halfway, and then you can kind of decide whether or not they need you. But it's a good habit to get into, is just leaning into river or leaning out of vision to kind of create threat onto the side lane. It's something you really want to be maximizing when you're playing Taliyah, since you're such a scary roamer, if that makes sense. Fast forward a little bit here, and then again, I'm just going to be pushing and moving to side skirmishes as much as I can, and that's pretty much the aim of the game. And that's how you snowball, really. You don't want to be playing for plates, you want to be playing to push and move. So, pretty sloppy game at the moment. Don't have much mana here, but Bard gets a really nice Q, and I'm able to kind of clean these guys up on the back end. Fast forwarding just a touch, once you base and get Ludens, obviously reversing like a Yasuo and Aurelia, I really recommend going Arm Guard, like Zhonya's secondary. I end up getting my blue, and then what you want to be doing, guys, is instead of so there's 2 things you can do. You can actually, after you get your blue here, you can actually walk mid and group with the team, and I'll show you what you would do. So here, say for example, I decide that I don't need to go to a side lane. I can actually walk up here. I'm actually drawing the top left, guys. I can walk up here and I can throw my wall behind the tower. And what that's actually going to do, and especially if these guys are around the tower, they're going to panic and go back behind the tower. And this is going to allow us to use our minion wave and actually get tower. So if you feel like you can't side lane, this is a really creative use of your ultimate, and it's a really good way of kind of speeding up the pace of the game. But if you feel like they're going to get mid tower anyway, and you kind of need side lane farm, or your team's resetting and they're not ready to kind of do a siege mid, what you want to be doing is pushing sides, clearing, because your wave clear is not bad, especially once you have blue buff, and you want to be pushing and moving, pushing and collapsing, because like I said before, your pushing and collapsing is so strong, and constantly assessing fights just in case you need to be there. And then I decide to constantly looking at the skirmishes. I see them kind of overextended. I cut off their escape route. I get a nice little kill here on the back end, and I try and chase them down. And so this is kind of what you really want to be doing as Taliyah, is either pushing this side and moving, or grouping mid for a siege, using your ultimate to kind of zone them off the tower, one or the other. And this is the exact same for objectives. Later on in the video, guys, I'm going to be talking about how you play around objectives a bit more. So for now, just sit tight. So I'll end this VOD here specifically because it's a bit of a stomp. And what I'm going to go through another laning phase of a tough matchup versus Syndra, where I'm actually versing a very good Syndra, and kind of show you what happens when you're in a different style of matchup. So keep watching, guys. So in this VOD, guys, I'm actually going to be stepping you through a very tough matchup, what I think is a very tough matchup, and this is Taliyah versus Syndra. And this is actually this is a very good Syndra player and high elo, and I can actually show you how hard, what it actually means to play in a hard matchup, and how I would approach playing one of these difficult matchups. So already what you'll see if you're versing a decent player is that they'll try and get minion advantage on you early, especially since my Q is not the shortest cooldown, and since my wave clear is not that good, Syndra can just bully me. And I'm really scared every single time. Like, I'm walking up for a CS here, he's looking to posture and go for a Q. Because his Q is on a shorter cooldown, he also outranges me, and he can also sit behind minions and he can actually walk up here, he can sit behind minions and look for Qs, because I can't Q through minions. So actually, I think I actually pointed on these minions, but I meant these minions, sorry, his minions. So that's kind of like what he's going to do. And this is why in these matchups, what you want to be doing is you want to be letting yourself get pushed in, and there's two things. First of all, you want to be letting yourself get pushed in. Obviously, there's not really much you can do about that. You want to be thinning the wave as much as you can, because if you let him push you in with a huge wave, then he's going to be able to poke you under tower and actually make it really difficult for you to CS under tower. And then what you're going to have to wait for is either one or two things. You're either going to have to wait for a really big flick on him into a big chunk, which is going to free you up in the lane to either push out yourself and base, or push and move, or whatever. Or you're going to have to wait for your jungler to come, relieve a bit of pressure with a gank, because obviously if they're sitting under tower harassing you, it's going to be quite difficult for them. And if your jungler doesn't come, you're just going to have to weather the storm, play for a quick tempo base, or like I said, wait for a flick and then use that opportunity to come back and reset. So you can already see he's like looking to put on the hurt with me. I'm trying to thin the wave as much as I can without kind of missing heaps of CS. But again, I'm too scared to walk up, because level 2, again, he outranges me. He can just QE, auto-attack me, and destroy me in terms of a trade. So I'm just trying to CS as much as I can without taking as little damage as possible. It's like, again, like a mini game, guys. It's a little mini game. Getting as much CS as I can while taking as little damage as possible, while thinning the wave as much as I can. So notice here again, I'm quite scared. I can't really walk up, because he's every single time I'm walking up to CS, he's looking to posture to QE me. And this is, you guys can already tell how difficult this matchup is compared to the Yasuo one. I haven't even been able to touch the Syndra yet, whereas Yasuo, I'd already pretty much got him to half HP. So the wave isn't too big, it's a blessing, because if the wave was massive, it would have been very difficult for me. End up even missing the cannon, which is unfortunate. Now, which is the beauty of this, if he tries to poke me under tower, my jungler can actually come and relieve a lot of pressure. Because he's good, he ends up dodging my W as well, unfortunately, and we end up trying to chase him down the lane. I didn't want to flash and heal to go for this kill, because I didn't know where Olaf was, and I know he would have just flashed as well, and it was a bit of an iffy play, so we end up just trying to chunk him out. And this is actually really good for my lane, because now Syndra's chunked. He's had to use a bunch of his pots. I still got 2 corrupting pots, and now this has given me a lot of room to kind of breathe here. And now I have a lot more space in the lane to kind of trade back onto him, and he gets a really nice trade there, unfortunately. But now that he's ease down, notice how I'm posturing like a little bit more aggressive, because he's ease down. I'm able to get a nice little flick and get a chunk, and that's what I was waiting for. If you get those nice little flicks, now this is going to give me more space to be able to CS and look for a reset soon to go for a Dark Seal. Able to kind of chase him down because he's past the minion wave and there's no minions. And look for a reset soon. But I want to make sure that I'm getting all the waves in so a freeze doesn't occur. He's really low. I'm trying to CS push as much as I can. Missing a lot of CS in the meantime, but it is what it is. So I'm kind of panicking, trying to get it in. Yeah, Echo ends up going for a dive, but getting killed by Olaf, but not too bad for me. I mean, Syndra misses a bunch of this CS under the tower. I'm able to get a decent reset off. I'm up 5 CS, and I get a decent reset. So I come back, and guys, what I recommend, like I said it in my previous video, in my previous VOD, boots and Dark Seals is bread and butter for Taliyah. You really want to be looking towards your boots in these tough mage matchups where you're versing, you know, even like Karma mid, Diana, like Syndra. What you want to be doing is going for Merc Treads. Merc Treads early is going to help you both dodge his skill shots, hit your skill shots, and also give yourself a little bit more tankiness for when he hits those Qs on you, and then also if he does hit the stun, to be able to kind of outmaneuver it potentially. Here I have a quick opportunity to get some vision down, because I know that we actually thought that he flashed in the meantime here, which was unfortunate because he didn't flash. But the reason is getting a pink, because if he doesn't have flash and the wave's pushing back to me like it is because it just bounced off this wave, and I know that this is awarded, this is going to give my jungler a lot more information to potentially go for a gank. And so notice here, I'm trying to come in from the side, get a nice little flick. He ends up trading back onto me, but it ends up being an okay-ish trade for me. So that's pretty much the aim of the game. And he's actually smart, and he ended up going for boots and Dark Seal as well, which makes it a lot harder for me to hit my abilities. So he's done the right thing and gone for boots as well. So you notice better players also itemize quite better, and because we're both skill shot reliant, boots are very important. Notice here, in between the waves, I'm constantly leaning down and panning my camera into these skirmishes. I decided not to go because the skirmish was over, but just in case there was an extended skirmish in the river, I'm going to be able to go down and get there way before Syndra here. A good habit to get into when you're playing Taliyah, because you're so fast in the river, hugging those walls. End up missing my flick there, unfortunately. Just trying to thin the wave out, because again, even though I have that little bit of extra XP lead on him, he still beats me 1v1 purely because he outranges me, and there's not much I can do here. And Syndra's just super strong early. So again, the aim of the game is to try and thin the wave as much as I can, CS under tower, either wait to hit a flick onto him, and then which is going to relieve pressure for me to roam or reset, or wait for my jungler to come to create a bit of space for me to be able to do something else like you've seen in the previous video. He stepped up, so I get a nice little chunk. Trying to CS as much as I can under tower. He gets an okay trade on me, but again, I thought he didn't have flash here, so I'm like, okay, this guy is 100% dead. Trying to bait him in a little bit because my jungler's coming. And now I thought he didn't have flash. I'm like, alright, I'm just going to flash over this wall and look for a quick combo or kill him, and he ends up flashing, unfortunately. It is what it is. Sometimes you can't track everyone's flashes perfectly when you're in the heat of the moment. But now he doesn't have flash, so I make sure to time that. And I stay for the next wave, and I actually check if it was a cannon wave. See how I panned my camera before? See how I panned my camera here? And just to see if it was a cannon wave, I would have just based myself, because I wouldn't have enough mana to kill a cannon wave in time. But because it was a normal one, I end up using my biscuit for extra mana, and then just try and smash this wave out by using the combo. Pretty self-explanatory here, guys. So you can kind of see how difficult it is to play one of these tough matchups, but it's not unplayable if you're patient, you understand what you need to do. And I come in with this mindset, like I'm either doing one or two things, like trying to go for that flick or wait for my jungler, playing very patient. And the sad reality of Taliyah is that she does have a lot of unfavorable matchups. So this is, if you do want to play Taliyah, you know, you're not using it as if like you're blinding it, for example. This is just a sad reality. So notice here I'm going Mercury Treads because again we're both skill shot reliant. I want to use that for survivability and just maneuvering around the lane. I'll do this in a lot of different matchups as well. When you're heading back to lane, guys, make sure you're hugging these walls again on the way through, because for that extra movement speed to get back to lane, that's super important as well. And here, what I'm going to be doing is, again, waiting for my jungler, trying to look for a flick. Not much I can do yet. So I'm just trying to wait because my jungler's topside, so I just got to play patient, not take too much damage, because if I take too much damage and my jungler does come, that's actually a really important tip, guys. I see this a lot in lower elos. If I try to play aggressive on this guy 1v1 and, like, you know, maybe I have a big ego, think I'm better than him, and I take a bad trade, if my jungler does come and I'm like a quarter HP or something, even if he relieves pressure for me, I'm not going to be able to roam to a side lane and do something else. I'm just going to have to base. So you really want to try and stay healthy, because you really want to be roaming as much as you can. There, I pinged my mid laner was going top. I could not follow because Syndra would just kill me in the river. So what do I do instead? And you'll see me in a lot of my videos, I also say this, is no, you don't follow if you can't. Don't compensate. Push the wave and roam onto the other side. So I end up pushing it. I end up getting all the CS here. And I end up leaning onto the bot side. And I do this so many games, and this works so many different times. I lean onto the bot side. Because it's solo queue and people aren't on comms, they're not on, you know, they don't ping very well. If he's on a skirmish, if Syndra's on like top side making a play, he's not going to ping me missing mid. So I end up able to go bot. I choose not to ult because I don't even need to. I'm literally right here. I wait for him to stun. That's super important, guys. When you're looking for a kill on the side lane and they have any CC, wait for them to use their CC first, and then you can look for your flick for guaranteed damage. He goes for that. I flick him backwards into the team. And then we get a nice little double kill for my bot lane, which is huge. And now that's a double kill for my AD carry. And now the game's in a really, really favorable position here. And I'm pretty much even CS. My team's getting quite fed here. I've kind of played for my team. What would have been a really rough laning phase is being okay. And yeah, so I think this was a really helpful VOD to show. Next, guys, two more things I want to quickly show. Now I'm going to show you a difference of versing a lower quality Syndra. And maybe this is something you guys might see in some of your lower elo games, just so you can guys see the difference between both, you know, someone misplaying a matchup, but then also how much more room you have to play Taliyah if someone actually misplays matchup. So keep watching, guys. So in this replay, guys, I'm going to show you the same matchup, but actually just versus a little bit of like a worse opponent. And again, because I'm versing a Syndra and I feel like I'm not going to be able to get shoved like a lot of the early levels, I end up doing that ward on the Raptors early because I have zombie ward, because I think I'm not going to be able to use my ward very well. So let's kind of dive straight into this one. And I think this is a really good example to kind of show you the direct comparison in terms of, like, you know, if you have more control over the wave, what you can do with it. So notice here already, Syndra's really not kind of getting minion advantage, which means that I've kind of got a bit of a minion lead, which means that, you know, I'm able to kind of walk up, play a little bit more aggressively. This Syndra's playing like a bitch, as I would say, and giving me freedom over the wave here. And notice how Syndra's kind of just like, not really, it's a lot harder for Syndra to walk up and hit a skill shot now, because she now has to focus on auto attacking these minions and looking for a skill shot at me. Whereas now, before, once she already had the minion lead on the other matchup, she could just walk up and just queue me whenever I was going up for minions. Like, she doesn't have that luxury anymore. So I'm just kind of looking to I was kind of confused playing this. I'm like, well, I'm playing Taliyah versus Syndra, but I kind of have shoves, so alright, I'm just going to take it. So I end up trying to slow build a minion wave. And if I'm able to slow build a minion wave ever on Taliyah, I'm going to do that, because then I can just walk into the enemy jungle, I can walk into side lanes, I can get a decent reset for myself. There's so many things I can do that is favorable for me, but now it's so easy for me to play this lane matchup. So as you can see, I'm just peacefully farming, getting all my CS. I'm in a decent position. I know Kha'Zix's bot side now because of this ward I actually saw on the Raptors. I'm just drawing on the minimap here. I knew that he pathed downwards, which means that I can just lean onto the top side quite safely, as you'll see in a second. And I know he wouldn't be in River yet, so that's why I'm kind of just like playing in the middle of the lane. And see, I'm CSing, building wave, and now, if my top lane was taking decent trades, I'm going to be able to build this wave, crash it into the tower, and then potentially even dive top for an early, like, level 3, level 4 roam. Or if there was a scuttle fight, like, I would get to it first because I have push on mid. There's all these things that I could do given this freedom. And you can just kind of see it. And this is what I mean, guys, when you're playing a decent matchup, this is what it would look like. You would have control over the wave. You'd be able to even get damage on them. Maybe not in this matchup, but you could be able to get damage on them. You'd be able to move a lot more. You'd be able to roam to sides, put a lot more pressure on the map without the help of your jungler. But notice here, I haven't had my jungler here at all, but I've been able to move. So I kind of just really wanted to quickly show you this sort of a matchup, or like what happens when you do have like move. And how much different the dynamic is. You're not just getting pushed under tower, sitting under tower, waiting for your jungler. And now, if the wave's in the middle like this, he's not pushing me under tower, it's going to open him up to getting ganked. I'm able to kind of have more room to chase him down with Qs like this. And it's just going to be a lot more favorable for me as a whole. So, I'm going to round off this video now with a few important tips and tricks that I think is super important if you really want to master Taliyah and climb. So, bear with me, guys, just a few more things. So this tip, guys, for when, like, you know, you're heading into mid to late game, whether it's around Barons or Dragons or Elder Dragons or whatever it is, or whether it's the 4th Dragon for the Dragon Soul, it's really, really useful. So in this game, you know, we just got to pick, and I'm thinking, all right, because Taliyah doesn't have a combat spell, you should be thinking, how can I use my ultimate to affect the next fight? So here, what I do is end up lining up my ultimate, thinking, okay, well, I can zone the whole team away from getting into this pit by just using my ultimate like this. So this is something you see mainly in competitive, but it's so useful even in solo queue. You can use it to split the fight. So even if 2 people are over here and 2 people are over here, we can just fight those 2 people now, and then these guys aren't going to be able to make the fight. And even if some people have like, they usually have one form of terrain mobility. Maybe it's Graves has like a 1 dash, or Lee Sin has a ward hop. They can't ward hop twice. You know, usually it's only one form of terrain mobility. So use this, guys, in your own games, especially once you get a pick into mid to late game, to zone the team, split the team, create space for your team to be able to get an objective, rather than just using your ultimate as a pick tool or something that you chase on the back end. Use it to block, like as a cock block in terms of terrain. Trust me, it actually really, really works. So try it out in your own games, experiment with it. And I'm not going to kind of be here to tell you all the different angles. I think it's a lot better if you kind of experiment in your own, with your own game, whether it's in practice tool or whatever. But especially when you're like level 16, it's really, really long. But, you know, that's what she said, but yeah, no, it's really, really long, and there's a lot of creative things you can do with it. So have a try around next time you're around a Baron or a Dragon, and it really, really can help the team. The last tip, guys, this is something that I've actually found really useful in my games that actually got me a lot of kills. So when you're, you know, like I've been saying throughout this video a lot, is you want to be pushing and moving. So a lot of the time when you're, you know, the enemy's going to notice this. They're going to be like, oh no, Taliyah's moving, I want to follow. But what you can actually do is realize, okay, if I chuck a ward over this wall and I see them trying to follow me into river to prevent me from going to a side lane or try and counter gank or whatever, what you can actually do is fake it. So you sit here, you clear a ward. Ideally, you would have a pink ward here. So they, like, I already knew this wasn't warded from before, but you can sit here and know this isn't warded. You can wait for them to come in and try and follow you into river, and you can get a really sick bit of burst off here. So now I'm like, okay, Mordekaiser wants to follow me and try and stop me from ganking bot. Well, alright, you can do that, but I'm just going to sit here, get a nice little flick into a complete burst combo, and 100-0. So this will work a lot of the time. Generally, what you'll have to do first, though, is roam once successfully with your ultimate, or, you know, just get a solid roam off. The second time, the team's going to try and adapt and be like, oh no, I'm going to follow and not let him get the roam off, in which you can decide to either use this ward to, you know, go for a kill, or you can genuinely go for a roam thinking that he can't reach you or whatever. This is just a potential idea that you guys, or a potential tip or trick that you guys can use in your own game to get like a nice little advantage. So I hope you guys enjoyed the video. If you have any questions about Taliyah, feel free to leave them below in the comments. And don't forget, guys, to join the Discord. Cheers. Thanks for watching.